Alright, everyone. So, you guys might have noticed that lately, I've been talking a lot more about gun-related politics. My reasoning for this is that, upon becoming a gun owner myself, and doing a lot of research on the politics around gun ownership and gun policy, I've started to notice that gun ownership, being pro-gun ownership and pro-gun rights, is an extremely popular position in America. And even when you poll people, like, post-mass shooting, like, say a big school shooting has just happened, even when you poll Americans on the specific measures of gun safety policy they're willing to allow and would be willing to support, the, like, willingness for strong gun safety measures, much less gun control measures, are very weak in America. Being anti-gun is not a popular position. In some circles, it may make you think that's the case. I think that a lot of influence from non-American political pundits kind of gives the impression that in America, not liking guns is more popular than it really is. But in America, whether you like it or not, gun ownership is extraordinarily popular. And even among non-gun owners, the idea of not being able to get a gun as an option, like that being taken away from them as an option, is not something they support. Considering the fact that YouTube has quite the large community of gun content creators, you can imagine it's become a hotbed of gun creation or gun content creator enjoyment across the internet. It is like the epicenter of gun content. I don't think there is really anywhere you can go online and find anything better for gun content than YouTube. You've got, like, the video formats, the comment sections, everything. There's no, like, Reddit page I've found that's, like, a better community for getting to know about guns and talk to people who know about guns. YouTube is the place. And when we look at the largest YouTube content creators that make gun content, they are almost unanimously right-wing, and quite openly right-wing as well. And they're not just making videos where they're shooting guns and it's like, whoa, cool guns. They're also stopping to talk about how they need to vote Republican to keep the Democrats from keep taking away their gun rights. A good example of this is the largest gun YouTuber on YouTube, as far as I'm aware, Brandon Herrera. Hypers in chat if you know who Brandon Herrera is. He's the guy who's, like, making the AK-50. He's got, like, the long hair and he's, like, muscular dude. He's friends with Marjorie Taylor Greene. He recently testified to Congress with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. So he's like friends with them, like IRL friends with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. And he is the largest gun YouTuber on all of YouTube. I see him on podcasts. I see him getting retweeted and quote tweeted and liked by large mainstream YouTubers because he is the gun YouTuber. He is the PewDiePie of the gun world, no matter whether or not you disagree with him outside of the GunTube space. He's just such a big YouTuber, you don't want to stir up his ire. He's just transcended gun YouTube into being big YouTuber. And he's friends with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I used to like his content until I realized he probably wants me dead. Yeah, I can kind of understand that. If you're like a LGBT person, you've seen him rant about how Bud Light is like going woke and it's bad that they're supporting trans people, and you see that he's loaded up with guns and he doesn't like LGBT people, I can see how LGBT fans of him might have gotten, you know, pulled away from his content. That makes sense. But, I was scrolling through Twitter today, and I had all my takes on this completely reaffirmed when I saw something fucking wild. Now, for those that don't know, I'm actually mutuals with Lauren Southern on Twitter. That may be questionable to many of you guys, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe that'll come in handy one day, so, like, I don't know, she hasn't shit-talked me on Twitter. I don't know why, like, should I block her? I don't, like, she hasn't done anything to me. But, she ended up tweeting this out. It's been an incredible blessing getting to work on this film with @Jean Dutoit, I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. @Timcast and the many other wonderful souls who made Infringed possible. Gun rights have never been more under threat and never more necessary. So let's go ahead and take a look at this infringed movie trailer, this documentary that Lauren Southern has made. Let's take a look at this trailer. This trailer was released today. This is fresh off the presses. We're looking at some fresh news. I haven't seen any other content creators talking about this yet. Let's take a look. Oh, I just realized, gotta pause the music because it's in a different thing, so YouTube's not smart enough to pause the music because I played a Twitter video.
Why are you a gun owner? I mean, it's fun. I'm actually...
It is. That is true. Okay. All right. We're starting off fine, honestly. Guns are fun. And because I know that, like, I'm going to have, you know, people in chat or in my comments section that come and watch this video that don't know me, they don't know that I am into guns, that are going to be like, you've never shot a gun before, meh, 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 meh. So this is my gun. It's a Glock 19 Gen 5. I love it very much. I take very good care of it. It's freshly cleaned, of course. And I also live in a cucked state where you can only have 10-round mags. So trust me, I am very familiar with the effects of gun legislation on legal gun owners, why one might want to own a gun for fun reasons having to do with fun of just shooting them and getting better at marksmanship, to also in regards to just like having it for home protection, for peace of mind, being able to protect my family, you know? It's a, you know, big part of American culture, and it's also something that as an American, I cannot possibly imagine living somewhere where the state is able to say you don't have the right to have a gun to defend yourself or for fun, and it not be like horrible the state has said you're not allowed to have guns. Like, I can't imagine living in a country where they say you can't have guns and then people are okay with it. In the same way that I feel like many of you can't imagine living in a country with so many guns and people being okay with it, right? It's so much of a cultural difference that I feel I can't even relate to many of you, and you can't even relate to many of me if you're not, like, American, right?
Concealed carrying right now, so...
What would you
Appendix
say
scary.
to those who believe firearms should...
That bit right there, because I only watched a little bit of this before I decided I would cover it. The second that I saw Brendan Herrera was involved with this is when I knew I had to cover it. That's when I knew that I had to talk about this. Like, you guys recognize how big of a weakness the gun culture and community online is for the left, right? The fact that the left just, like, is willing to completely cede gun culture and gun content to the right as an exclusive part of conservative culture. Guns are too popular and unanimously enjoyable to cede them as a hobby to right-wingers. I'm sorry, guys. On an objective level, on an objective level, guns are too cool and fun for us to just let the right have that as an intrinsic right-wing thing. Why do you want so badly to let that happen? So many Americans single-issue vote. They are wedge-issue voters on guns, and we lose their vote from the Dems to the Republicans simply because gun policy. And it's not even that, like, gun policy isn't even unpopular. Like, gun safety policy isn't that unpopular. Depending on what policy it is and how invasive the policy is, there's more support for it. So, like, waiting periods, even in Republican states, particularly for handguns, are a popular policy. Ron DeSantis passed that bill with pretty large amounts of popularity in Florida, dictating that you have to wait 3 days for picking up a handgun if you don't have a concealed carry permit. Because even Republicans that know a lot about guns, to be fair, recognize that, yeah, handguns are the ones that are used in the most amount of gun deaths and crimes. So, like, yeah, we want to actually do something to make sure there's not tons of legal guns being used for crime and causing deaths, because that's going to make gun manufacturers look bad. It's going to make gun distributors look bad. It's going to make the gun lobby look bad. The gun lobby has a vested interest in making sure that there's not an actual huge epidemic of legally owned guns or legally obtained guns being used to commit crime and used to commit murder, suicide, etc. And so there's been a lot of measures taken already. The thing is, we need to go further, but in ways that aren't going to be popular with the companies, but will be popular with most Americans, I think. Hey, Soaked Unleft, you'll agree with me here. I'm talking about Lauren Southern's new gun movie, gun fucking documentary, and she got interviewed the biggest gun YouTuber on the website, period, Brendan Herrera. So, like, I'm talking about how, like, the gun tube is a pretty big, blind spot for the left right now, and this is just the perfect example. This is exactly what I was talking about with you on stream the other day. Is this shit. And it literally happened like a week later. Lauren Southern likes guns, another argument for banning them. True. Honestly, yeah, you're not wrong. In all seriousness, though, isn't it funny, though, that Lauren Southern is Canadian and has, like, come to America to do a documentary about, like, how this right that foreigners in a foreign country have is supposedly under threat? Like, to be clear, I do think that some gun rights are seriously under threat. And that's the big problem that I have when I watch, say, Brendan Herrera's content, is outside of the complaining about woke beer or whatever that he'll do. He'll complain about a gun policy that's genuinely pretty shit, and I agree with him that it's a bad policy. Like, for example, across-the-board assault weapons bans in many states. He's against those. And it's like, well, I mean, I have to agree with him, and when he says that it's because they're not really all that much used in crime and homicide, it's like, yeah, that's true. Like, I can't argue with him because he doesn't have to lie when it comes to guns. The right doesn't have to lie as much when it comes to guns. That's the issue. We've ceded so much ground to the right on the issue of firearms, and I hate it.
Those who believe firearms should never be viewed as entertainment.
I have no idea why they would believe that. I actually can't fathom why they would.
I can already tell what this documentary will be. And the sad thing is, frankly, I'd probably enjoy it. This documentary will almost entirely be dunking on the worst examples of the left being irrational about guns. It's going to be focusing on people who think you're some kind of bad person in some way for enjoying shooting guns. Like, guys, hypers in chat if you've never shot a gun before. I want you to imagine... I imagine most of you in chat who've never shot a gun before have at least played a first-person shooter, or like Fortnite or any type of shooter game. It's not exactly the same. Trust me, it's not exactly the same in many ways. But do you know that sort of fun, enjoyable feeling of achievement or accomplishment you get when you laser a guy in Fortnite or in Call of Duty or CSGO, when your shots are just perfectly placed, you hit every one and you win the gunfight or you win the game? Imagine that. Like that feeling you get when your accuracy is perfect and you feel super good about yourself, but you're holding a real gun that's exploding in your hand. It's a contained explosion shooting a projectile. You're hitting bullseyes, and it's real life. And imagine how that makes you feel, how fun that is, how accomplishing it makes you feel, how much better you feel as you notice that each, if you go to the range, you get targets, right? You get your paper targets, and I take a lot of them home. Like, once a month, I'll take a paper target home so I can see what my groupings look like. And I compare my groupings across the months, and I can see as they get tighter and tighter and tighter and more precise across the months. And I look at it, and I'll just spend like 5 minutes with my targets over the course of 6 months just laid out in the living room. And I'll just like stand there with my hands on my hips, proudly looking down at them as I see my progress of my shooting skill getting better and better and better over time. It's just, you get the same feeling of accomplishment you get from improving at any other skill, but also you're shooting guns. And it may seem scary, but I assure you, once you've done it and the fear melts away and you realize you're not going to get hurt, it quickly becomes exhilarating and fun. It really does. And no, it's not about some fantasy of killing or hurting anybody. There are people who will get those like human-shaped targets at the range that are like meant to like represent a person or like whatever. And I don't like that stuff. Very few people at the range tend to even get those targets. Most people that go to the range just get a standard like bullseye type target setup because they're just trying to practice their aim. They're not trying to goof around or get fancy or send a message or make a political statement at the range. They're just trying to improve their shooting. There are definitely douchebags in the gun world, but this movie will almost certainly focus on like the worst examples of the left around gun rhetoric.
I would say that.
These are weapons of death and destruction, and they ruin people's lives.
Sure, they absolutely could. We can go out here and have a lot of fun. Or we could go do something heinous with it, but that's not what we're doing.
After Columbine, after Sandy Hook, after Charleston, after Orlando, after Las Vegas, after...
A very common response from conservatives to, if you have, like, say, an assault rifle, you could use that to go, you know, kill dozens of people, right? You could, right? You have that ability now, and that's a dangerous thing. And a lot of conservative pro-gun people will reply with, well, you drive a car. Well, you could just swerve off the road and run over a bunch of kids that are crossing the street, but you don't. We still let people drive cars and allow kids to cross the road, and we have crosswalks, and we trust people to just not run people over and to obey the law. And the response to that, naturally, from me, I think the best response to that retort is, well, we require people to get licensed to drive a car. It has to get renewed. They have to go through training and tests, and if they fail, they don't get to drive a car. And it's illegal for them to drive one at all. So maybe we should carry that same standard over to firearms. That's what I think we should do. I think you should have to go through classes, trainings, tests. There should be many failure points where they can say you are clearly not of sufficient responsibility and knowledge and know-how to own a gun, or mental capacity, you're dangerous, whatever it may be, get out. You're not getting a gun. Try again in a year, you know? Like, I think that's absolutely something we should be doing. You should have to have a license that gets renewed every once in a while in order to own a gun. The more safety protocols in place, even if it means one less death via legally obtained gun per year, it's a win. My issue is when, of course, legal, safe, responsible gun owners simply can't get guns. When you just can't, period, get a gun, whether it be an assault weapon, as they'll call them, like an AR-15, or a handgun, or anything like that, once it's like, no matter what, you just can't get this, that's where I draw the line when it comes to the policy. I think that if you are able, there should be some amount of hoops you can jump through to prove you are going to be safe, responsible, and so on and so forth with any weapon that you want to get as a civilian.
Parkland, nothing has been done.
My daughter was my love of my life. She was graduating that year and she got shot. I just lived with the dull pain of having my child murdered.
When are we gonna do something?
We all know the biggest reason for the tragedy is the gun.
It's easy to just point the finger at the gun. I looked into all the facts, and every time I look into these shootings, it was avoidable. It's a failed system.
The government does not want...
They will not at any point in this movie advocate for putting tax dollars towards social safety nets that allow for free mental health care access for every single person in the country. That is the solution to that problem. School shooters do these things because they're mentally ill. Mass shooters do mass shootings because they're mentally ill. No one in their right mind does that kind of thing. They're either radicalized and have become deluded enough to believe that they're doing something morally good, or 99.9% of the time, when it's not like the Nazi Christchurch shooter, or usually on top of that, they're mentally ill. The only solution to the fact that there are people out there who are mentally ill, and that is sometimes a danger, is to help them. And that help doesn't just materialize out of thin air. We have to actually allocate tax dollars to it. We have to create programs. We have to actually fund those programs in perpetuity. We have to have oversight on these programs to make sure they're up to a proper standard, so that it's not just a cobbled together project that does nothing of any actual value. But they are correct here when they talk about the fact that the guns are not the things doing the evil. It is the people using them. However, I think it's kind of ignorant to not also add, of course, the guns allow for a much higher scale of evil to be committed by those people. Then the extra caveat is, though, of course, but we have no way of guaranteeing we can keep guns out of the hands of bad people in America, that is. But I can guarantee that if a bad person comes to my family, that I'll have a gun to protect myself and them. That would be probably the best response to, like, that line of argument from the left. If you're, like, a pro-gun, like, American bro.
Want the people to keep and bear arms, and they resisted at every chance possible.
Ban assault weapons now!
A disarmed nation.
So that's Biden calling for a national ban on, basically for what the state of Washington is right now with their gun legislation to be federal, is what he was calling for there. So, like, you literally can't buy any rifles other than, in the state of Washington, let me show you collage of banned guns in Washington state. Let me show you all the guns that are banned in Washington state, pretty much. So any gun that looks scary, pretty much. See all these? These are, I'm pretty sure, maybe the AK, but, like, that might be, like, I think you have to be special to get one of those. Like military service, police work, might have to fill out special paperwork. I forget the exact process for getting an AK. But a lot of these are just semi-automatic civilian versions of popular military rifles, right? Like the AR-15 is just a civilian version of, like, a semi-auto civilian version of the M4. And these are extremely common, extremely popular rifles. Extremely common popular rifles. All of these are banned now. This is the shelf. This entire shelf had to be emptied when the ban went through. These are the guns that Biden is referring to when he says ban assault rifles. You would simply not be able to own these anymore, ever. And I get that they're scary. I get it. They're, you know, scary guns. I get it. The problem is, if we actually look at statistics and numbers and facts and reality, as much as these types of firearms have been used to commit mass killings, and are the most commonly used types of firearms to commit mass killings, which are the ones that get the most attention, if you actually cared about solving the issue of Americans dying to guns, particularly children, underage, under 18 Americans dying to guns, you'd care about handguns. Joe Biden almost never shit talks or talks about handguns in a negative way. He'll talk about 9mm, like he's talked about 9mm caliber as in a negative way, but he's never specifically referred to any handguns or broad category of handguns or any handgun in particular as an issue. He only ever fearmongers about assault weapons. These supposedly high fire rate, legal assault weapons. But it's fearmongering. It's the Democrat equivalent to, like, fearmongering about Drag Queen Story Hour. The real issue with guns in this country are handguns. That's the dangerous gun in this country. That's what you need to be scared of.
Becomes a nation that serves.
History shows that it does not have a good track record.
Normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
I heard some gunshots the other night. Living in the city's so crazy because, like, you'll hear a gunshot at least once a week if you leave your windows open at night. Like, I'm like right next to just not the best of neighborhoods. That's all I'll say. So, there's been some stores that have been, like, armed robbed several times since I moved to Seattle. My local gun range has been robbed twice. They lock up all the guns at night, so they literally, like, every time someone breaks in, they find nothing and leave with nothing of any value. There's certainly not any firearms. They lock them up in a safe at night. But the gun store's been broken into twice, the gun store in range, and they never get anything, and they always end up getting caught on camera and leaving evidence. Do they even get money? No. They don't even know what's valuable. They'll go in and they'll steal, like, grips and, like, excess magazines or whatever and snap caps, and they won't even steal optics. The one thing they don't lock up in most gun stores are the expensive $600, $700, $800 optics. They didn't steal the fucking optics. The actual extremely fucking valuable thing that's just sitting out there in the open that they could have taken. They stole, like, the easiest to grab, most useless stuff because they knew nothing about guns or what's the most valuable. Yeah, there were, like, literally from when I was in there talking, because the store owner was the one literally telling me the story about it. We were joking around about this, like, at the desk. And he was like, dude, look at all these optics in this case. And there were like 100 red dot optics. These things go anywhere from like $325 to like $600 a piece, sometimes more. And they were just there. And those guys did not take any of them. It's crazy. They didn't know what the valuable things were. They were there to steal guns, couldn't steal any guns, and so they improvised. And it's just a perfect example of how people who do crime in this country, that type of crime, are typically not the most well-educated. And that's not an insult towards them. It's a socioeconomic analysis. These are not people who, if they had a better education, would be doing that. If they had a better education, they would be able to pursue a life of non-crime. Right? It's very clear that the people who did that, especially since I believe they ended up being like teenagers, very clearly did not see any other course in life for themselves. And that's where a lot of gun crime also comes from. Not a lot of it, I should say. Actually, a fair amount of it, but most gun deaths are suicides, followed by accidental shootings and self-inflicted gunshot wounds that are like accidental. Like, accidental firings and misfirings and whatnot. And then you follow that up, I believe the third most common is homicide through, because of, like, domestic dispute. Like, homicide, domestic dispute. Like, usually someone who knows another person familially or relationship-wise shooting another person. With, like, very, very few gun deaths and gun injuries in this country coming from random guy with a gun shoots a stranger. Like, it's like really rare in this country, both per capita and in just straight up numbers, period, for a stranger to shoot another stranger. It doesn't really happen much in this country. It's not that common.
It's a balance of power between the state and the population it's meant to serve. And that balance of power is maintained by force.
I like that the Second Amendment.
Yo, Connor. I like Connor points. I talked to him the other day, but yeah, Connor Points is without a doubt the most reasonable conservative there is. Like he's not transphobic. Like I've talked to him, he doesn't hate gay people. He's pro-abortion rights and pro like contraceptive rights. He's opposed to the Republican Party, but he's pro-gun. Obviously, I think Connor Points is basically like close to being where I am politically. I think that, like, if I hung out with Connor Points more often and talked to him more often about politics in a non-like pressured setting, like on stream, I could make him like just basically like a leftist libertarian, and not even like make him one, but just kind of like get him there, you know? I don't know. I've talked to him like off stream and on stream, and I genuinely don't think he is driven by the same things that most conservatives we talk about and deal with are driven by. I think he's actually a good person, which is not often the case with most conservatives. So he's not a conservative? Listen, guys, there is a big difference between the people like Ben Shapiro and the people who watch Ben Shapiro and don't know any better. I'm not trying to, like, discount Connor Points, but I like... Obviously, I think if you identify more conservative than left, I think you're at least wrong about some things.
By force. I like that the Second Amendment has evolved into something beyond judicial interpretation, encapsulated in this little download. It means what I say now.
Oh, looks like they're talking about ghost guns, too. We actually just did... Isn't it crazy how I, like, literally my last stream, I'd done a segment about ghost guns, the 3D printed ones. Yeah, look at those. That's pretty. So, chat, I'm actually curious. What do you guys think about me getting the polymer lower, or I guess I'll hold it like this so you guys can see, getting the polymer lower of my Glock made white, like mailing it off to like professional place to get it coated, and making the entire bottom, like besides maybe the mag release and a few other places, make it white. And so it's like white and black and white, like my color branding. Black and white. I think that'd go hard as fuck. Sadly, though, Sadly, though, this is another example of the kind of thing that Republicans take advantage of to make gun policy and gun legislation look bad. Hypers in chat, if you remember, FPS Russia. Who remembers FPS Russia? Used to be the biggest gun YouTuber. Well, he is a felon now and can no longer own guns or possess them or shoot them. He can no longer do FPS Russia ever again. The reason he's a felon and went to prison was because he was buying weed. He lived in Georgia, which is a very right-wing state, which was good for the guns, but very bad for his other hobby, which was weed. And he got caught receiving it in the mail, and the police wanted to get him a lot harder than what they already had him for. So they searched his phone, and they found a text of him asking his girlfriend if she wanted to come over, watch the new episode of Game of Thrones, and get stoned and eat Chinese food. That was the text. And so the federal prosecutors decided to interpret that as intent to distribute. So they charged him with intent to distribute and possession of a Schedule III substance. And then on top of that, he had guns. Having guns and weed in a place where weed's not illegal is a massive fucking felony. Like, you can have guns and weed and, like, as long as you're not, like, inebriated using the guns, that is illegal. You're not allowed to go to the range and shoot a gun while drunk or stoned. If you, like, breathe drunk at if a cop for some reason sees you drunk at a gun range, stops you, tells you to blow into it, and you blow like a drunk, you're probably going to jail. But in an illegal state, you're not even allowed to have weed in your house and own guns. You can't. It's completely illegal. In the eyes of the law, you are a drug lord. That's all they care about. So they searched his house. The ATF came, and they searched his house. They took all of his guns, because at that point, he was already being charged as a felon. They took $250,000 worth of guns, I believe, and destroyed all of them. They melted them down. $250,000 worth of guns, confiscated and destroyed by the ATF. But before that, though, they found that a couple of his guns had a defaced serial number. That is to say, FPS Russia had sent those guns off to be coded at a professional place, and they'd made a mistake and filled in paint in where the serial number was. And you could totally still tell that the serial number was still there. You could tell what it was. It was very clearly still there. But you're not allowed to cover it in any way. No attachments, no tape, no paint, nothing. Anything that even slightly covers, like the way you've got your gun set up, if it covers up and obscures your serial number, they can charge you with that. And here's the thing. Even though they were very, very flimsy charges, what I listed were super flimsy charges, 97% federal conviction rate for charges like this. You do not fight federal charges. So he took a plea deal for simply intent to distribute marijuana, is what they had him plea down to, which was 60 days in a low-security federal prison camp and 2 years probation and permanent felony. He can no longer vote, and he can never own a gun again. This was an extremely high-profile story and case, and this is the kind of thing that goes through the average American's mind, certainly pro-gun American's mind, considering he was once this was how the downfall of the largest gun YouTuber there ever was, happened, was because he was falsely accused of being a drug dealer, using his guns to run a drug empire when he was just a dude who makes gun videos and likes to smoke a little weed, and they tried to destroy his life, then sent him to prison and took his gun rights away. There is good reason why a lot of Americans do not really feel comfortable with any form of gun legislation.
Means what I say now.
So yeah, partnered up with Tim Pool, to make a pro-gun movie. So as you can see, the right is really recognizing, especially lately, how big of a W they can get if they focus on guns hard enough. Because guns are probably the biggest winning issue for conservatives, and they're really At least the smarter ones seem to be focusing on it. We got this Brandon Herrera quote tweet. Last year, Cody and I were interviewed for Timcast's new documentary about gun rights in America with Lauren Southern. Definitely go check it out. And so he's sending his audience to go check out Tim Pool and Lauren Southern. He is a massive gun YouTuber, by the way. Like, he is a mainstream, like, massive YouTuber. Like, his popularity breaks out of just gun YouTube. This is one of the largest just YouTubers, period. He has 3.1 million subscribers. And his most recent video is testing the assassination of MLK Jr. RPG versus the human body. Worst internet gun fails. I really do like this guy's videos, to be fair, but he is definitely pretty far right. Definitely. Or at least just willing to compromise on any other principles he might have because he agrees with people on guns. That's also possible. To be clear, that is also possible. Oh, we got another clip here. Lauren Southern put out another clip from her movie. She tweeted, "So I hear at Joe Biden wants to ban so-called assault weapons. New doc coming soon." And this 53-second clip.
I'm determined to ban assault weapons in this country.
What is an assault weapon?
What is an assault weapon?
It's a trick question. And the reason for that is, if you are anti-gun and you use the term assault weapon, then the people who've taught you that term have fucked you over. Because it's a made-up phrase. It's not a real categorization of firearms used outside of political messaging to try and make guns sound scary. So if you're asked what is an assault weapon, you will not be able to give a definitionally accurate answer. It is not a classification of gun. There are battle rifles, assault rifles. There's all sorts of phrases that are typically used in that world, but assault weapon came from anti-gun advocates and does not get used in the gun world. No one says it. It's just not a thing. It's a political phrase.
High caliber rifle.
A weapon that can just do a lot of damage.
Any weapon that could cause harm.
Like a stick? Honestly, that's one of the most intelligent answers we've gotten.
The Second Amendment says every single gun law is illegal.
Finding people who actually want to ban guns is a damn near impossible task in this country.
Chairman Mao said power grows out of the barrel of a gun. At the end of the day, it does.
How can I tell a free person you're not allowed to be able to defend yourself?
In America, it's part of what we are. It's part of who we are.
Wait, was that Anna Kasparian I heard? No, that's Lauren Southern. This is Lauren Southern's documentary. Was that? There's no way there was Anna Kasparian. No, this is Lauren Southern. I know all women sound the same. I get it. Yeah, I know. You're all gay. You're all gay in chat. You never hear the sound of women's voices, so they all sound the same. Anyway, no, I get it. Listen, if I was gay, there'd be no reason to ever talk to women. That's my worst joke. That's my most fucked up joke. Lamau bad Zan, thank you. That's the right response. Thank you. Anyway, no, in all seriousness, I like guns, okay? They're fun. Like, Americans like guns. I'm an American. Most Americans agree with me. The Democrats are taking an unpopular and in many cases just factually incorrect position here. Like, we can go even further than that. Just the phrase assault weapons is so... Like, I could do an entire fucking segment on what is an assault... So, this is from CNN 10 years ago. This is a clip from CNN 10 years ago called What is an Assault Weapon?
Situation Room with Will Blitzer. Weekday afternoons at 4 Eastern on CNN.
Simplicity and ease of use are two things that make AR-15 type rifles so popular. We got former alcohol, tobacco, and firearms official Mike Bouchard to demonstrate how fast 15 rounds can hit a target.
However fast your finger pulls the trigger.
When was the last time you...
You could do it way faster. You could do it so much faster. These are semi-automatic. Did they say fully semi-automatic, or are you quoting when Biden said that? Or that other politician. I don't think it was Biden. These are semi-automatic, so it shoots as fast as your finger can go. That's however fast your finger pulls the trigger is how fast it shoots. You can't just hold it back and make it go brrr, because we banned those a long time ago. Now you have to have a really fast finger to make it go brrr. But now they want to take away... Before it was just, we want to ban the guns that go brrr. Now they want to ban the guns that go boom, 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 boom. Then they're going to want to ban the guns that go boom, 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 boom. And then they're going to want to ban the guns that go boom, 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 boom. I'm trying my best to imitate these noises, but if you know what gun I'm imitating a Garand, okay? The ping gives it away.
When was the last time you fired an AR?
4 or 5 years ago.
AR-15s and similar models are at the center of the debate over whether there should be a ban on so-called assault weapons. What do you think of this assault weapons ban business?
I'm not for it. I don't think it's going to change anything. I think if someone wants to create havoc or cause a crime, they're going to do it their own selves. Criminals don't follow the rules to begin with.
A lot of this comes down to a discussion of individual features, characteristics like pistol grips, folding or telescoping stocks, muzzle-mounted grenade launchers, flash suppressors, and...
I will say, I do like when we're having conversations about gun policy, and, like, it's, like, something that is as absurd as fucking grenade launchers gets mentioned. But, like, in all seriousness... How many times have grenade launchers been used in America, despite their legality, to commit terror or crime? These are expensive fucking things. Nobody is spending tens of thousands of dollars on a fucking grenade launcher to commit mass killing. That's just not a thing people are doing in America. If they're going to go and commit a crime with a gun, they're going to go buy a $200 pistol. Okay? That's just what they're going to do. They're going to get a little shitty $200 revolver.
Bayonet mounts, and how many would make it a prohibited weapon? In 1994, any two characteristics meant it was banned.
The argument why they banned things like a folding stock is that it's more easily concealed and that folding stocks were typically designed for military-type purposes. The pistol grip, they outlawed that because it's something that you could fire this, which is meant to be a shoulder-fire weapon. You could shoot it from the hip, which is typically what you would do in combat.
A current proposal from Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein would be less permissive than the old law, banning the firearm if it contained any one of the disfavored characteristics. It's true that some of these guns look formidable, but in our short time at the range, it wasn't hard to find an owner who uses one for sport.
It's amazing. It's my favorite gun to shoot out of all.
Why?
Insanely accurate. It's got no muzzle flip. It doesn't have any recoil to speak of. And it's just fun. You can put a lot of rounds on the target.
Perhaps the biggest debate is over whether the last ban worked. Gun control advocates say it saved lives and the country is ready for it now.
I think the public has reached a point where, the polling suggests a large majority want it, and the reason is they're seeing that these mass shootings are happening.
It wasn't true 10 years ago, and it's still not true now.
Increasingly rapidly, and they're becoming increasingly massive.
But Bouchard, who once worked to enforce the ban, says there's another way to go.
I don't think it was effective because there were so many in circulation at the time that it was not a problem to find them. I didn't notice much of a difference.
Right. You can't get all those guns off the streets.
Correct.
So what's the answer?
There were just too many on the street. Personally, I think that the way to go after this is the ammunition source, the number of rounds that you can have in a magazine.
No, that's cringe. Cause dude. No. Do you know how fucking dumb that is? Do you know how easy it is to just like obviously I would never, ever in a trillion billion fucking years do that. But for one, you can literally 3D print a magazine, okay? When really you can 3D print a magazine. It is 95% plastic. There is a metal spring and maybe like a tiny piece of like metal flat bit to like connect the spring to the plastic in there. You can very much 3D print those things. Second, there are tons of guns that also accommodate belt feeding. And you can literally just have old magazines around. I have so many fucking magazines that I've gotten for my Glock at this point since I got it. Like, if suddenly those became illegal, I would throw them away because I don't want to have them if they're illegal. I don't want to get down that road. But if I was willing to break the law, I could just have them. They're just there. Like, whether, like, that, they're not gone now. They still exist. That is not a solution. Notice how so many pro-gun people, due to the fact, like, as far as the advocates go, because they're conservatives and they are the top of the food chain in the gun world, because conservatives have risen to the top of the gun world, they will never suggest that dedicating our tax dollars towards reformative policies to create systems such as Medicare for all, allowing people to have full access to mental health treatment, like no matter what, no cost, no charge, no out-of-pocket fees, no need for insurance, none of that. Or hell, even just ensuring housing for everybody, ensuring stable food and stable electricity, stable, just the necessities to stay alive and keep a family going. If that was guaranteed to every American, you know, America, the most successful and powerful country in the world, if that was if those two things were guaranteed for every American, I guarantee you would not see anywhere near as much crime across the board, and certainly far less gun crime. Whether you reduce or raise the amount of guns in the country, there would be far less gun crime if we handled the actual core issues. But these guys don't want to suggest that we should dedicate our tax dollars towards actually solving the problems that make people take up a gun and hurt people. How are Glocks an issue for self-defense? They're tried and proven striker-fired polymer-framed handgun. I prefer double-action decockers, but Glocks are fine handguns. Was someone saying Glocks aren't good for self-defense? What the fuck? Well, I didn't say that. This is mine. My gun's a Glock. I didn't say that. Are you talking to me? Oh, it was a reply to another dude. I was confused for a second. When would I ever suggest they're not good? I literally suggested that the Glock 19 is the best first handgun you can ever get. I love it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I am a Glock-pilled motherfucker. For home defense, a Glock LMFAO. Oh, if you're doing home defense, you want to go with either a shotgun, or if you can, you would want to have a rifle. Like an assault rifle. Like, if you could, you would want that. But shotgun's probably for a novice, like someone who's going to be panicked and doesn't really know much about shooting. Shotgun is ideal. You just can't miss with it, and you're not going to have much worry about, like, a round going through the wall and hitting someone else. But if you can go and instead reach for an AR-15 as your home defense gun, people think, like, AR-15s they have no use other than, like, you wouldn't use an AR-15 to hunt. You wouldn't use it for home defense because it's so overkill. It would just wreck your house. That's not true. It wouldn't actually be that overkill of something to use for home defense, an AR-15. Don't use an AR-15 if you have anybody living nearby. Definitely not if you have, like, neighbors in the apartment next door. But if you have, like, your own house and you hear, like, slamming on your door, and you can either reach for your handgun or the loaded AR-15, go for the AR-15 first, if not because you probably have 30 rounds capacity on that over, like, the 12, 7, 15 you may have, give or take, depending on the gun and the handgun. But yeah. Also, did Zan just say he got a decocker? Trans Zan? Well, I was reading someone else's message, and very, very good meme. Yeah, decocker. Yeah, you did the joke. You are not the first. Oh yeah, for sure. I did an active shooter course in the Army, and I would take an AR if possible any day. Yeah, it's the best rifle ever made. The AR-15 is the Glock equivalent of rifles. Like the AR-15 is what Glocks are to handguns to rifles. It's just the stereotypical, extremely popular, for a reason, like, there's a reason why everyone knows the name even outside the gun world. They're the best, and everyone knows it.
The Feinstein proposal is definitely looking to deal with some of the ammunition issues. They would require fixed magazines of no more than 10 rounds and ban large capacity.
And they're not even the best because they, like, are super, like, fancy or super, like, over the top. They're the best because no matter who you are, you can configure an AR-15 to be perfect for you. No matter who you are, you can configure a Glock to be perfect for you. No matter what, there's always some aftermarket shit you can buy that will make it perfect for you.
Capacity feeding devices. They remove things like bayonet mounts and flash suppressors from the banned characteristics because they're easy to remove, and they also require federal registration of certain weapons already on the street. But the question, of course, Wolf, is whether something like that could get through.
Yeah. So, not a big fan. Not a big fan of a lot of Democrats' messaging on guns. If you want to see a good conversation about the type of gun legislation that would not only be much more popular than the kind of things that Democrats are typically pushing for right now, but would also be far more effective at solving these problems, I highly recommend you check out the debate/convo. Wasn't really much of a debate. We mostly agreed on everything, but the convo I had with Soaked on Left. I just uploaded it on my channel like maybe a week ago, I think. So please go check that out. It was really good. Probably one of the most fun combos I've had on my channel. And yeah, you should check that out. You should go look. It's some of my better content.